Okay guys, so today what I'm going to teach you is how to do batch processing. So we use the batch processing for converting our color images into black and white. And this way is a lot faster than just going through the images one by one unless you need to do some special tweaking in some of the colored images to make sure that they convert properly. But in this case, what you want to do is find your favorite black and white images, find your favorite black and white preset online unless you've already created one. Once it's already created and you have it imported into Photoshop, what you want to do is then go to that preset and then run it. So once you run it, so in this case, I have a preset that I like that I use for my black and whites, and I already have it here selected in the top right corner. So what I would do is you'll run that preset. So down here at the bottom, you'll click play, and then it'll run through the preset. And then once it gets to where you like it, um, this is the next step. So you got to be very, very careful in this process. So you want to scroll down to that last portion of that file where the preset ends. That means all the commands have stopped. So right here it says to flatten the image. So it's converted to raw and it's ran all the settings that I like, and then now it's stopped at the end. And then this is where you either save it or close out of it or make some tweaks in whatever it is that you want to do to your black and white image. But in this case, what I tend to do is I'll take a look at it and see if I need to modify anything, like if I need to take out some of the contrast or grain or anything like that. Um, but once it's to my liking, what I'm going to go back to is right here in the action pane and then select that last action run set. So right now it's run through everything, it's sharpen it, and then it just stops right here. And this is perfect. This is where I want it to be. So now what I want to do is record the next action that I make. So meaning the next steps. So what I'm going to do now is click the record button, and then so I'm already done editing this image. So what I want to do is I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Export, and then Save for Web Legacy, and I'll click that, and then I want to make sure the file is about between 80 to 100. It all depends on the size of the files that you're sending to your clients. Um, but in this case, this is just a test, so this will just be 100%. And then what I'm going to do is save it. And then once I save it, I'm going to get this window that's open here that's telling me, hey, where do you want to save this file? So on your desktop, this is what I do. I create a folder called batch. So I'm going to point to my desktop, and I'm going to scroll down, and I have a batch file. This is where I stick all my black and whites inside this folder so I know that everything is in there. So in this batch folder, I'll click it, open it up, and then don't change the name, just leave it as it is, whatever it is, the file that you're opening just for testing. And then you want to click save. Now remember, it's still recording down here at the bottom. So once it's done saving, you want to go here to File, and then you want to do Close All. So once you close all, and then you don't need to save it because it'll save it automatically. So you just click Don't Save. And then once it closes out, you want to go back down here, and you can see it. It's already showing you it's exported it. This is the commands for the export that you told it where to go. And then you told it to close the file. And then once that's done, you want to stop recording. Okay, once it's done recording, now this is where you need to test it to make sure it's working. So you're going to go and open up an image. Okay, then you're going to scroll back up to the beginning of the preset, and now you're going to play it. Now, if this works properly and you've done everything super simple on the command, you're going to play it, and then now it should do everything, and then close it and dump it into that folder. And then once it's closed down, you're going to go to your batch folder, which I've created on my desktop. File is there. So I'll show you guys again. So I'm going to move this to the trash. And then I'm going to go and open a file just to make sure it's working properly. Go to my preset. I'm going to run it. Then it's going to close. Check my batch. Perfect, it's there. So now this is where you want to run the full gamut of everything. So now we're going to go to one of, let's see, we're going to go and check the file here. So let's go to a wedding. All right, so let's just do a test wedding. So say for instance, this is a folder that you dumped it in. So you want to do these, right? So I look in here and say, oh yeah, my client loves this, and now I need to convert them all to black and white. And I've already got my presets, so I already know that once I open this, this is going to dump all those color images into my black and white batch folder. So I'm going to close this down here. Actually, I'll keep it open. And then I am going to go to just open up an image, just so that we can get the menu for Photoshop. I'm going to scroll over here and go export. Now, not export, excuse me, automate. So in the automate, this is where you're going to start the commands for your batch file. So we're going to go to automate. So we're going to go to file, automate, batch. Open up the batch folder, and then you want to select the ones that your preset is set to, and it should actually remember the preset that you selected when you were doing your test. So it should appear over here. And so this is the folder, and underneath that folder, this is the preset. And so there's a few different ones in there. So once you have this located here, you want to go to your folder source. So right now we're going to go into the drive where the wedding is, where the wedding files are kept. All right, so these are the files that I'm convert. So because the client said, hey, can we get black and whites? Oh, sure, I can do that for you. So I've already pointed to the location where it's going to go. So remember, we went to file, batch, this popped up. This will show the last preset that you ran. So remember, we did our test, which is over here on the right side here, and it populates here automatically so that we don't have to find it. But if you need to find it and it's in one of your subfolders, you just need to find it here. But this is called batch black and white, and that's the way I've named it. And so then I select the preset I like, which is my 3200 copy version. And the reason why I made a copy of it is because you have an original version and you don't want to alter the original version. So just mental note, do not alter the mental version. The original version, excuse me, you want to make a copy of that version. And to do a copy, I'll show you after this batch runs. But so now we've chosen our file, so this is the path of where that file is located. And so what I'm going to do is check just to make sure here that none of these command boxes are checked, because I don't want it to stop. I just want it to keep going. And if there is an error, say there's a corrupted image or something, it'll stop, and then that way you can come back and check it. So this is kind of that process where you click it and forget it. So you just click it and you just walk away. It usually takes about 2 to 3 seconds per image. And I'll show you that right now. So nothing's checked here because I just wanted to run, and then I'm going to click OK, and then it'll start running. So I've clicked OK. Now it's following the file to pull it up in Photoshop. And the thing is, you don't want to stop this. You just want to let it run. You don't want to interrupt it. So now it's going to pull up all those images and convert it. So now you just have to sit back and wait till it's finished, or you've stepped away for like 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how many images you have. So remember, it's about 2 to 3, sometimes maybe 5 seconds per image, depending on how large the file is. So at this time, it's like, okay, black and whites are running. I walked away. I'm doing something else, or I'm editing, another wedding in the background while my black and whites are running. And then once all of this is done, now remember, you programmed your presets to dump all these files into your batch folder that you created on your desktop. So now it's just running. So once it's done, we'll go into our batch folder, take a look, see what the black and whites look like, and then that way we can now save them and put them wherever they need to go. So if they're in the batch folder, you can copy them over to your drive, and then prepare them for the client. So I don't generally save these files to my external hard drives just yet, because I want to verify that they've ran correctly. So I'm saving it to my desktop, so then that way when I open them up, I can see if I need to tweak anything before I save the final product. It saves you this space, because what happens is if you save these files onto your external, what tends to happen is still creates like these tiny temporary files that just kind of clutters up your space. So in order to avoid that, I save it onto my desktop, That way, if I need to clean a hard drive up and fully erase it, um, or delete some files in there, then I have the room to do it. So I typically don't convert these black and whites on my external until I've gone through them on my desktop and just to verify that everything looks okay. So it should almost be done. There's not that very many images in there. And what's really cool about this is as it's running, um, you know, you don't have to worry about anything. You're just doing your editing. So let's take a look at the batch folder. So it's still running. So just be aware that it will be a little slow because it is pulling those huge files out if they are in RAW or JPEG, just to doing all the conversions. Once it's done, okay, it's getting close. If you want, you can minimize it, but remember it's going to be a slight pause because Photoshop is a pretty hefty program when it's running. So sometimes it'll do it, sometimes it won't, because it's like, hey, don't interrupt, I'm still running. All right, we're getting close. Got a few of the teasers from Perception. All right, so now it's done running. So now we want to check out the batch folder, and boom, there they are. They are all inside the folder. So now we can do another QA check if you like, just kind of go through and make sure everything is processed properly. And in this case, it has, and it looks really good, and it's to my liking. And so now I can go ahead and close these out, copy these files over to my external, and then get them ready for uploading and send them off to the client. Now, I'm going to go back to Photoshop because I want to show you guys the tweak that I was referring to. All right, so once you have your favorite preset, you always want to make sure you make a copy and don't alter the original. So in this case, what you want to do is just select that preset that you like, and then go down here, and then you want to make a duplicate copy right here. And then once that's duplicate, so you can rename it if you want. So you can put like black and white batch process. So then that way you know you're going to alter this file and not the original file. So that way you can save yourself a headache. And same thing, just once you've did all the tweaks that you like, you can just check to make sure everything's copied correctly. So this one will copy everything, so it has all the commands in there, the save and close, and then it dumps itself into that batch folder. But I just want to make sure you guys make a copy of that first. So the steps are, what you want to do is create a folder on your desktop, call it batch or whatever it is that you want to call it, but I call it batch because I know all my batch files are in there on my desktop. The second thing is find your favorite preset, or if you have your own preset in Photoshop, make a duplicate copy of it, and then once that file runs at the end, you want to record the next actions where it's going to save it, close it, put it in this location, and then close all. And then you want to test it to make sure that image is actually going to that location. And then once it's in that location, you've tested it, it looks great. Now you can go ahead and point the batch file to the files that you want to convert to black and white. And that's in the file, automate batch. And then that's where you're going to point the location and then allow it to run while you walk away or do some editing in the background. And another important thing is Try not to disturb Photoshop while it's running because it will hiccup and then it'll glitch and then some of the images might not convert properly. And then you might run into some issues where you need to tweak some things. But pretty simple. Just try not to bother Photoshop while it's running. So if you're in Lightroom, don't open up a file that you need to edit in Photoshop while the batch is running. Try to do all that before or after it's done processing. And also, in the next video, what I want to do is cover how to name your images so that way you don't have any confusions between color and black and white. So what we've noticed that in the past is that you may create a color folder and a black and white folder, but the naming convention is the same, and so you can't differentiate between which one's color and which one's black and white because they both carry the same name. So you got to make sure you rename the file black and white or at somewhere in the file itself, so that way you like, oh yeah, that's right, it was a black and white image, and that way the client doesn't come to you and say, hey, I have image 111 that's color and image 111 in black and white. So it's a little confusing. And if they do something where they need to copy a file to something else, and then what happens is that color file will get overridden by a black and white file, or vice versa, where the black and white file will get overridden by a color file. So in the next phase of this video, I want to show you guys how to name your files in Lightroom. So in that video, I will show you guys the Lightroom process of what we use and what we do, and then it'll come down to opening images, creating your catalogs, and creating your SEO content inside of it, so that way once you post your images on the web, it has all the SEO data inside of it, and then that way some of your images can be found online. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll start the next video of Lightroom, which is going to be super fun and amazing. Alrighty guys, thanks.